If I got your attention, let me see your eyes. Let me see everybody's eyes. All right, we're in the heat of campaign season. This is the Democratic Mayoral primary. My name is Sam P.K. Collins. As Ms. Brown said, I'm a reporter for the Washington Information newspaper. This is the moment that you've all been waiting for. First, let's give our candidates a hand for making it to the night. All right, so before we get started, I'm going to outline the rules for tonight. The first one being that we will start with 1 minute opening statements, and we'll wrap up this forum with a 1 minute closing statement from each candidate. Second, most of the answers will be 1 minute. We will have a 30-second short answer round. And I'm outlining these terms as in regards to time. I'm kindly asking the candidates that we stick to time. Kindly asking. And with that being said, we're definitely going to start it off. Yeah. So what I'll do here is I'll alternate in terms of order throughout the night. But what I'll do first is start
do you mind if you go for a little bit? Because I'm trying to videotape them for the notes. You'll just scooching over.
And we'll work our way down the road.
Thanks. It was fine until he moved over. Thank you.
Thank you for having me this evening.
What's your name?
I'm Gary Goodweather, business leader, U.S. Army veteran, builder, husband, and father of 2 children that were born and raised here in the city. I helped build Sonoma neighborhood, and I know what it takes to get projects through D.C. and how it continues to get harder. I am running because I believe we should expect more from our city leaders. We should expect a more affordable city. We should expect a better education system. My administration will build 50,000 new homes. We'll build 50,000 new homes. We'll lower electricity prices by powering with local energy, producing local energy. We will ensure that every student has an outstanding education, and we will provide free transit in D.C. I am the first candidate in D.C.'s history.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rini Sampath. I'm very excited to be here. I immigrated to the United States when I was just 7 years old with my family in pursuit of the American dream. And just 5 weeks ago, I got into this race because I felt that our DC government is not delivering on the basic functions, its basic municipal promises. Everything from our infrastructure, our roads, our 311 app isn't working, and I want to work to make DC government fix the basics. So I'm here, I know many of you might be hearing my name for the very first time, to hopefully spend the rest of this forum telling you why I'm qualified to do this, why I'm capable to do this, and why we need a next generation of leadership in DC government to deliver on the basic services that we all rely on and that we all thrive on every single day. So thanks again for having me, and I'm really looking forward to spending the next 45 minutes with you all.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vincent Orange, and I'm running for mayor because I was part of the solution in 1998 with Mayor Williams and the voters brought in professionals to get our city out of a hole. $518 million deficit, control board, junk bond status. In 8 years, we turned it all around. I'm running today because the biggest issue is public safety and justice. And public safety goes across all boards. It goes across your daily lives, protecting your children, protecting your homes, protecting economic development, any and everything. And I'm running because I have an 8-year-old and a 16-month-old granddaughter, and I'm sick and tired of all the violence. I can't take them to Navy Yard and be in that water pool and think about having to cover them, telling them be ready at any moment to guard. This council created that narrative of defund the police. And for the last 4 years, we've only had 3,100 officers, but we budgeted for 4,500. Something's going wrong. Public safety and justice is the key. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good evening and thank you to the Ward 3 Democrats. Thank you for everybody who's here today. My name is Kenyan McDuffie, and I'm running for mayor of Washington, D.C. to fight and deliver for all D.C. That means all 8 wards, all 700,000 residents. Right now, our city's at a crossroads. It requires leadership with experience to be able to deliver across this city to make sure that people feel safe. We have quality education. We're building housing for everybody across incomes, and we're creating jobs to connect young folks to and displaced federal workers. Right now, too many people are focused on division. Our politics is very negative. We've got a person in the White House who is dividing us. We don't need leadership in Washington, D.C. that does the same thing. We need leadership that brings people together. I've spent 13 years on the council doing just that. And as your next mayor, I will make sure that we are fighting and delivering for all Washington, D.C. Thank you to everybody who's here this evening. I look forward to the conversation.
Good evening, Ward 3. My name is Janeese I am a proud third-generation Washingtonian. I'm a proud graduate of Alice Field Junior High School and Goodweather Law Center High School and Howard Law. I am a former Assistant Attorney General, a former Assistant General Counsel, and District Attorney. And for the last 5 years, I've served as the Ward 4 Council Member and Chair of the Facilities of the DC Council. And I'm running for mayor to put people first. And that means 3 things: addressing the very real affordability crisis that we have in the city, standing up to this Trump administration and being strategic in protecting all of our families, and delivering on basic government services for all 8 wards in this city. That is what this moment requires: a leader who is ready to stand up, who is courageous, but also who has integrity and has the experience to solve our most difficult problems in this moment. I look forward to talking to you tonight, and I look forward to being your right choice number 1 for mayor. Thank you.
Much appreciated, candidates. Now we're about to go in, going straight for the jugular here. All right, we'll start with candidate Louis George, and then we'll work our way down. If you may, please outline your first 100 days as mayor in terms of engagement with the council, the office of the Attorney General, and the DC delegate to form a plan to tackle federal intrusion. What would you do in 100 days in collaboration with those forces?
Great. It's a great question. We have to do 3 things. We have to have a real inside-outside strategy. So first and foremost, we're going to sit with our Attorney General, Brian Schwab. As a former Attorney General, I just know how amazing that office has been and will be. And we got to make sure we're using every legal tool we have to be able to fight back against this administration. We also have to walk the halls of Congress ourselves. My executive office of mayor will have a federal affairs office that is building relationships in Congress on both sides of the aisle, because we're going to have to ensure that we are filibuster-proof in the Senate to protect DC's autonomy. And the third thing we're going to have to do is also work with our community. Many of our community is organizing on the ground, our Free DC movement and so many others, to be able to be organized in that respect, and continue to work with the DC Council. As council member, I have introduced legislation to end cooperation with MPD and ICE. On day 1 as mayor, that is what I will do, in cooperation between MPD and ICE. I also want to work with Governor Spanberger in Virginia and Governor Westover in Maryland to be regional champions to fight back against intrusion. Thank you.
Everybody in the District of Columbia deserves to feel safe. That means everybody across all 8 wards. It means our immigrant neighbors. It means people who are in communities that have been plagued by crime. In the first 100 days, I'm going to make sure that we sit down with everybody across government, including the elected leaders, as the chair of the council and the office of the Attorney General, and I will let them know that the first order of business is to repeal the executive order that allows cooperation with ICE. Because right now, our neighborhoods do not feel safe. And then we want to bring our business leaders and our unions and other stakeholders together to talk about how we lay out a vision about economic growth with guardrails. That means looking at the ways that we create jobs in the District of Columbia for our displaced federal workers and our young folks who are looking for things to do that are not being connected with the training to compete in today's society. I'm going to make sure that they see a pathway to economic opportunity and security in the District of Columbia, and we're going to lay out that vision for economic growth, but we're going to make sure it has guardrails so we're not displacing anybody in Washington, D.C. who wants to participate.
As mayor, on day one, I'm going to provide the direction that we are going. And that direction is going to be that we are not here to negotiate with Congress and the White House in fear. Yet, we will not fear to negotiate. What's non-negotiable is home rule, DC autonomy, and the pursuit of statehood. Non-negotiable. But other than that, what's on the table? The White House has indicated they would fund apprenticeships. Well, every agency in the District of Columbia will have a youth apprenticeship program, and we'll make sure that our high school seniors have a path to the middle class, and I'll give them 4 options. I will get with the Attorney General. Our Attorney General has been doing a great job to give us a legal strategy moving forward and how we deal with ICE and all the other issues. He's an expert in that field. And our delegate on the Hill, we're looking for another warrior on the Hill that will bring us all together, that will deliver the message each and every day. But we will not negotiate in fear, yet we will not fear to negotiate. Thank you.
I've attended a handful of these forums, and I noticed we get to the point where we just all start to agree with each other and say the same thing. So I'm going to focus on 2 things here, and that is our involvement between MPD and ICE. And the first point I want to focus on is the data that is being shared between MPD and ICE. And for me, in the first 100 days, the campaign that we're driving is entirely data-driven, and one thing I want to put a stop to is any data sharing between MPD and ICE. It's really creating friction in our community. It's creating distrust, and when our own community doesn't trust our local law enforcement, that creates problems for public safety across our city. The second thing I want to talk about is the focus on statehood. We all care about statehood. We want to see DC become the 51st state, and I want to approach it from a way that I don't think has been talked about yet. It's a national coalition of both Republicans and Democrats. If we want to see this get done, that has to exist. That is one of the biggest blockers stopping it from happening, and I want to use the mayor's office in order to advance that agenda and gain some support.
Appreciate it.
The first thing I'm going to do is create a cross-branch task force, federal task force. That's the executive branch, the delegates, the CFO's office, the Attorney General, and council. We have not worked collaboratively as a city. The government has not worked collaboratively as a city to get more of our DC residents. And I will also use all the tools that with all of our residents to be able to create new tools to defend ourselves against the federal government. Number 1. Number 2, we are going to create a government that does so well for its residents, that is so successful for its residents, that lifts all of its residents up, that getting statehood is undeniable. It will be a given because we are so well managed. Number 3, I'm going to create the Capital Corps, a civic-wide DC service organization that is dedicated to create education and training career paths for DC residents to ensure that every DC resident has purpose, belonging.
Next question, we'll start with Kenyan McDuffie. To what degree has the implementation of youth curfew zones been effective? Would you reverse course? If not, what would you change or add to ensure a less tenuous relationship between young people and law enforcement? 1 minute.
I'll try it in 1 minute. Curfews are not a permanent solution to what we're seeing in our juvenile crime right now, or what we're seeing in all the juveniles showing up in Navy Yard and other places. All the research and data says that it is not a permanent solution. It is a temporary solution to address what we're seeing, though, and making sure that we extend it to address what we're seeing in Navy Yard is important. On the other hand, what we need is more meaningful programs to connect young folks to those pathways and get them jobs in the District of Columbia if they're job ready, or to connect them to things that are structured behavior. We need accountability and opportunity. When it comes to young folks, we need to make sure we're holding their parents accountable as well, right? To make sure that they are where they should be. And not following the law. But we can't wait for young folks to show up at the Wilson Building or to show up in the juvenile justice system. We need to usher the opportunity into those communities where we know they're coming from. And that's what I would do as mayor. Not wait for people to show up at City Hall, but you take the show on the road and you provide those opportunities in those communities where we know those young folks are starving for those opportunities.
Folks, let's be real. We need accountability. These young people, a lot of them are out of control. Now, at the same time, we have to lead by example. Now, my two colleagues here, they put on display chaos in the church last week. And 2 hours after that, those 200 kids were down in the Navy Yard, and they were causing chaos. So you have to lead by example. And at the end of the day, our kids, our children, they do need opportunities. I'll provide 4 options for our high school graduates. One, they will be able to go to UDC tuition free. Secondly, they will be able to go to higher education utilizing the tag, $15,000. But I need to keep them in DC. I'm giving them additional dollars to go to our universities because I need them to be a part of the District of Columbia. Third, every agency in the city will have a youth apprenticeship program, and we will get high school seniors, get them into the government at an early age. Benefits and things of that nature. So it's wraparound services, but public safety and justice is the key. And accountability, we can't sleep on that.
Now, I want to start with, I'm a really big nerd. I'm a director at a cybersecurity company, and so a lot of the work that I've been doing to even prepare for this is so much reading and so much research. And on the topic of juvenile curfews, I've really come to understand that the touch points with parents are so necessary. I was very privileged, and I grew up in a 2-parent household. That's not the case for a lot of the kids here in Washington, D.C. And this topic is very closely tied to chronic absenteeism. And there's proof out there that the more touch points we have with parents, regardless if they're 2-parent, single parent, coming from Washington, D.C. government and from our community, that is what's going to help reform our juvenile crime situation. So yes, there's a balance of enforcing the law, having consequences, but also thinking about some of these aspects of governance that maybe we're not emphasizing. What about the touch points with parents, making sure they have what they need to raise their kids to thrive here in DC?
Thank you.
I go on a lot of walks with MPD officers, and we take a look at different neighborhoods, and when I talk to them, they understand that they've lost the trust of the community. And for the most part, a lot of them feel that it's because of the federal government, because of the federal intrusion in our city. Ultimately, we do need to create opportunities for our youth. We have to be able to ensure that all of our kids are getting an outstanding education and that they have purpose and belonging and that they were having training so that they have a career pathway, so that they feel part of the community. As part of what I'm developing, we have a law enforcement branch in our Capitol Corps. And the idea is that law enforcement is part of the city. I want the best trained, most empathetic police force in the world. Because I want these kids to grow up and speak, and I want police officers to live in our city. I want them to be able to afford to live in our city.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. First and foremost, one of the issues we have is the data sharing that's happening with our federal law enforcement, and ICE and armed guards, as well as Homeland Security and others. And so the problem now is when we are doing enforcement in the city, our police department is no longer doing enforcement by themselves. They're doing enforcement alongside federal agents who are not accountable to the DC Council and not accountable to the community. We've lost 3 lives already due to the fact that not MPD didn't respond, but federal law enforcement responded. And so we have to be smart and strategic in this moment. So what does that look like for our youth? That means extended DPR hours, both on the weekends and in the evenings. That means 24-hour community hubs where young people can go. That means what me and Councilman Freeman introduced a year ago, which was universal after-school programming for all of DC schools. That means addressing chronic absenteeism, which is a very real issue in the city with what we know works, which is home visiting and evidence-based support. I spent my years as a juvenile prosecutor. Thank you.
Next question, we'll start with Kenyan Orange. In recent years, overcrowding at Jackson Reed High School has in part inspired the launch of MacArthur High School, which hosts students from across the District of Columbia. Oftentimes, many of these students face 2-hour commutes. What is your plan as mayor to ensure that students across the district have access to a quality education in their neighborhood?
Thank you very much for that question. First and foremost, the Chancellor will report to me. And we need to give our Chancellor goals and measures of accountability, which we have not done. Now, in this city, we have to ensure that from birth to 4-year-olds, they're able to sit as kindergartners and take on the career that's in front of them. That is, they must be able to read independently upon graduating from the 4th grade. They must be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide upon entering the 4th grade. By the time they get to the 8th grade, they have to be able to move forward, but we're competing with the streets. Because if we leave these kids behind, then the streets call them. So there needs to be collaboration. Someone has to be able to take charge. I'm that person. I'm an ABC student. When I was 14 years old, I got a scholarship to go away and go to a private school because I came from a poor background, and they told me, you can help the black race by being successful in that program. I stand before you today as an attorney, CPA, and 4 degrees from coming from the bottom and being able to stand before you today. I know what I'm saying because I know.
I'm currently asking that we stick to time, please. We're doing our best. I'm just speaking to everybody. Let's be very mindful of time. Appreciate you.
Quality education has changed my life. It's changed the trajectory of our family's life. I know it was education that helped my father's stable working class background in India move us to the United States ultimately. So it's something that I deeply care about. I want to approach this topic of quality education from 2 points. And first, it's the physical infrastructure that our students participate in, and that's everything from HVAC systems to their actual classrooms and their public spaces in their schools. These are all things that from every conversation with educators I know are broken down, and those are the basics I want to address as soon as I am in the mayoral office. The second piece is supporting our educators. We have happy educators who are burdened by teacher evaluation systems and other cumbersome procedures. We know that we are going to create an infrastructure where teachers take care of the students. I know that's how my own family benefited from quality education. I know that's what helped us break out of what our previous life looked like, and so I hope that for every one of our students here at DC. Thank you.
We spend more per student than any jurisdiction in the country with some of the worst long-term outcomes. What are we going to do? We are going to reallocate money to where it is needed, to more social workers, to more mental health professionals. And I will say this until I don't need to say it again. Mental health is health. Mental health is health. And we will fund after-school activities. We will hire more literacy coaches. We will deploy all the financial resources necessary to ensure that our children receive the best possible education, period. I will also, day one, declare a public health emergency for education because it is foundational to everything we do. There is nothing more important than ensuring that all DC residents have a great education.
I've said many roles, but my most important role is Pierce's mother. And when I think about the type of education and the schools I'm going to choose for my son, I want to make sure that he has access to the same programs, dual language immersion, making sure that he also has access to AP programs and IB programs. I know all too well the overcrowding issue. In fact, myself and Councilmember Drake, my first couple of days in office, wanted to address overcrowding at Lafayette Elementary School. And we asked the administration of DC Public Schools to look at the Episcopal School to create additional space for Lafayette Elementary School so we could address the overcrowding issues there. We have to address our middle school gap, especially in Ward 7 and 8, where students should be able to go to a middle school that has the same programming that they received in elementary school as well. And so until we address that middle school gap, until we address overcrowding, we cannot ensure our students are having the education they deserve in this moment. Thank you.
Jackson Reed High School is overcrowded because it's a quality school. Quality schools in the District of Columbia are in demand. It just so happens that a lot of people living east of Rock Creek Park have to play the lottery in order to get a quality school. The way you address overcrowding in Jackson Reed, at Deal, at Lafayette, at Birch, and other schools in Ward 3 is to make better quality schools in the other wards. That's the bottom line. My mom and dad graduated from DC Public Schools, but for them, they didn't have confidence when we were kids, me and my siblings. Their version of school choice that didn't exist, their version was to take extra jobs. My mom worked at a part-time job, my dad had worked actually full-time job at night in order to send us to Catholic school. That is not fair, it is not just. The way that you address overcrowding in Ward 3 schools is to improve the quality of schools across the District of Columbia so that every child has access to quality schools in their neighborhood.
All right. Give thanks, give thanks. Next question, we'll start with candidate Sampath. We're going to focus on tax policy for this one. DC has one of the highest concentration of wealth in this country, alongside persistent inequity. Do you support increasing taxes on high-income households, wealth, or corporations to fund public programs? What specific changes would you propose?
Certainly. I got in this race, as I mentioned, because I've been so disappointed in how the current DC government manages our existing taxpayer dollars. We spend so much money, and with such a bloated budget, we have some of the worst infrastructure across all 8 wards. And so what I want to see is DC government manage the existing funds appropriately before we raise any new taxes or implement any new business activity taxes, especially because we have the highest office vacancies in downtown, and this is the time to not drive away businesses, but to actually attract businesses. So I have a commitment. I care about the social programs here in DC, everything from our child care subsidies to being able to provide housing vouchers. At the same time, we need to handle the mismanagement in our DC government before we trust DC government with any more of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars.
DC's tax code has made our city less affordable to live in. And that is not just income tax and business tax, but it also includes real estate taxes. Real estate taxes in our city are hurting us in terms of economic development, economic success. It is making everybody, from a renter to an owner, it makes them more expensive. That is what the city government has done to us. So we will realize as DC residents instead of put them down. Let me say this. We are in a very serious financial situation. The DC CFO, Glenn Lee, has been clear. This next budget is worse than the Great Recession. We are going to have to do more with less. I earned an MBA with a concentration in finance at Johns Hopkins at night while I was working. I am the candidate that knows budgets.
We need to do a number of things with our dollars. First and foremost, one thing we do as a city, first and foremost, we need to leverage our federal dollars. We leave money on the table and we return money. I can tell you that we have given back money to HUD. We have given back money to the Department of Education. We have given money back to DOE, Department of Energy, and Department of Transportation. If we don't leverage our federal dollars and we continue to give money back, we are not doing smart by our taxpayers here in the District of Columbia. The second thing we need to do is to cut a lot of the waste. We have tons of duplicative contracts. As facilities chair, I saw the ways we weren't exercising warranties after we were building $30 million buildings. So we're gonna cut waste. We're gonna do a real forensic analysis of our city government and do the work we need to do to make sure we are making sure we're spending our taxpayer dollars there. In addition to leveraging federal dollars and ending waste in our city, we will look at opportunity to close loopholes. And we will not tax working families and the people of the District of Columbia in doing so. Thank you.
Question? Yes, sir. DC has one of the highest concentration of wealth in this country, alongside persistent inequity. Yeah.
I thought I heard the question about wealth, and I want to start by saying that we have in DC, still today in 2026, one of the highest racial wealth gaps of any city in the United States. I'm not just going to talk about what I will do as mayor. I'm going to tell you what I've been doing the last 13 years on the council. I've been fighting to make this city more racially equitable, more socially just, and more economically inclusive. It's why I did the REACH Act, the Racial Equity Chief Results Act, to make sure that we have a structure in place to judge how our policies are impacting marginalized communities, i.e. Black communities, Latino communities, and other marginalized communities. It's why I pushed the baby bonds bill, first in the nation, to make sure that we had opportunities for young folks trapped in a cycle of poverty in this city. I do not think that the next mayor needs to default to raising taxes, but we do have to have a mayor with experience of bringing people together, including business and labor, and others who are going to invest in this city so we can create the housing we need, the jobs we need, and we put people to work. We grow our economy at its base, and not default to raising taxes.
Only the truth can set you free. Now, what has occurred here is Ms. Janeese has been publicly documented on record for a congestion tax pricing downtown, as well as another tax initiative. Mr. McDuffie, Mr. Mendelson, and Janeese voted to take $600 million away from the middle class, seniors, and businesses. On record. And right now, when you file your tax return, it's a little clause that says you may have to file it again because of that. I'm going to take over the big, beautiful bill. I'm going to call it the Orange Beautiful Bill, and I'm going to provide a $793 million tax package that covers the middle class, that covers all our seniors, that covers our businesses, and yes, $200 million for low-income households. We have not had a tax break since 2014, and that wasn't really a tax break either. How many of you are seniors in here today? Do you know that you can't take that $6,000 deduction, but everyone else in America is taking that deduction? You can't take tips deductions. You can't take car insurance deductions. You can't take any deductions.
All right. Time. One more time, y'all, please. Let's respect time. All right. Next question. We're going to start with Mr. Goodweather. This one deals with government effectiveness. Many DC programs fall short, not because of bad policy, but because of poor implementation. What is one program or agency that has underperformed, and what specifically would you change to improve execution? Mr. Goodweather, you have the floor.
One program, there's a lot of programs that have not been effective. We've seen how there's been double, triple of the same programs working for the same outcome for the same individual or the same system. So what I will do is ensure that everyone in our administration is experts in what they lead. and that they are mission driven. Because you need to ensure that you know how to run an organization, you know what you're doing to be able to actually be effective at what you do. And in terms of the effective services, look, we've seen how our housing voucher program is not being effective. We need to make it more effective to ensure that the people that deserve the vouchers are actually getting it. I would say that also the perfect. That one actually saved me.
Great, thank you. 1 second more, we're all the way around.
Housing. All of our housing agencies have to do better. DC Housing Authority has to do better. And holding conditions. We have to do a better job of getting our HPAP, our housing dollars, our EPAP housing dollars, so people have a real path to ownership. We have to do, department buildings have to do better at being proactively enforcing and actually collecting all those fines, so we have real enforcement happening. So all of our housing agencies have to be done. And while I have a few 30 more seconds, I want to talk about two things: the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. Two things that I've been able to push forward as a council member. The earned income tax credit put money in the pockets of working families across the city, and the child tax credit is the number one thing to close the job poverty gap in the city. Those are some things I am proud of, because tax justice is racial justice, and we did that without having to burden residents, and we did that in a difference, a tangible difference in the lives of working families in the city.
Our system of housing is broken and it needs to be fixed. Right now, it doesn't matter whether you are an unhoused individual or you are somebody who is middle class looking for housing in the District of Columbia. Right now, it's unaffordable. And we need to fix the entire continuum of housing if we want to grow our economy and attract more residents and attract more businesses. We cannot be hostile to business and pit business against workers like some people have done on the Council of the District of Columbia. We need to think about how we grow our local economy and focus on housing across agencies and make sure it works. DHCD, DC Housing Authority, DC Housing Finance Agency, and every other housing agency needs to understand how to work together to lower the cost of housing so we can build more affordable housing across the District of Columbia so everybody can afford to stay here in the District of Columbia. If we want to be the world-class city that we know we can be, then we need to address housing both with leadership, cleaning slate with directors who cannot do their jobs, and putting in new leadership to make sure that housing works for all. Folks, we are a $22 billion government. And out of that $22 billion, $11.7 billion is locally generated. As an attorney and a CPA with a Master of Laws in Taxation, my job is I follow the money. It's the money trail. The first place we go into the budget office and try to ascertain why we're bringing in $500 million for paid family leave and it only costs $100 million. Where are those dollars going? We're going to look at the traffic cameras, generating $500-600 million. 01 only costs maybe $7,500 million to take care of. We're going to collect all those dollars, then we're going to address housing. Although we spent $1.5 billion on housing, but where are the houses? We spent $4 billion on education, but our children aren't being educated. You need a leader that knows. I've been in the trenches. I was there with Mayor Williams. We dug ourselves out. I have the training. I am the most accomplished candidate in this race. Yet the media, they won't let us compete. They want to say it's only 2 people. That's not true. Compare the records.
Appreciate it.
I'd love to focus on the Office of United Communications. The reason for this is a life or death situation. When we call 911, you shouldn't feel like we're gambling or we're playing the lottery. If you think about it, here in DC, this is a huge problem. A friend of a friend died from cardiac arrest because they coded his 911 call incorrectly, and that's not just one story, it's a regular story. EMS, 911, they're not communicating together. They're sending EMS to the wrong quadrants, northwest instead of northeast, and this is simply unacceptable. So the program I want to reform immediately on day one by focusing on staffing, focusing on retention, morale, because it's one of the hardest jobs you can do is within the Office of United Communications. I want to reform that program because it's going to make sure that our residents aren't relying on a complete lottery-based 911 system. It's something that affects folks regardless of age in the city, and that's where I want to spend my time and energy on day one being in office. Thank you.
All right, next question. Well, first of all, how y'all doing tonight? Y'all gotta be loud, man. Don't be afraid. How y'all doing tonight? All right, that's fine. I'll take that. Okay. Our next question, we'll start with candidate Louis George. If y'all can cue work with the mic, please. Okay. Budget and revenue. So each candidate has 1 minute. Budget and revenue. The district faces a tightening budget due to federal job loss, expiring funding, and congressional interference. As mayor, how would you grow the city's revenue base while maintaining essential services? 1 minute.
Thank you. Great question. I always believe that a budget is a moral document. And where we spend our money and how we spend our money is about our values as a city. And we have to be ensured that we continue to have a social safety net for all of our families, that we're not cutting health care, that we're not cutting wages for early childhood educators who keep our city going. How we continue to have a good revenue sources in 2 things. We are a sports town, which is great, but we also are a university town, and we're a labor town, and we have amazing hospitals. My future for DC looks like leveraging our universities, leveraging our hospitals to make DC a space of innovation. Make this a space where we use our universities to create job pipelines, to support our students, but also allow us to be smart and strategic. We have seen jurisdictions across this country, from Boston to San Francisco, really lean into using their universities and our hospitals as spaces. We want to make this a space where families come here. We want to make this a space where people want to retire here. And so we're going to try to create what is a retirement town here in the city and a space for families to come. Thank you.
You grow our economy by telling a different story. We don't allow Trump to dominate the headlines about what a beautiful city Washington, D.C. is. We are a world-class city. We just have a real horrible branding problem right now. So we're going to tell a different story. We're going to double down on those fundamental industries that are part of our resurgence over the last 20 years, including hospitality, tourism, including sports, creative economy. We're going to make sure that we focus on those large transformational infrastructure projects like RFK, where we're going to invest all in about $8 billion to bring the commanders back. We're going to bring hotels, we're going to bring retail, we're going to bring restaurants. We're going to connect our young folks to that pipeline of opportunity and career pathways. We're also going to work with the federal government to make sure that we can expand Union Station and take the opportunity for that $8.8 billion to create investment in the district by way of new jobs and new opportunity. We're going to do the things where we see growth areas like healthcare, like infrastructure, like cyber. Folks, we have to understand that the main product of the nation's capital is tourism. We must have those 25, 30 million people come to our town, but they have to feel safe. They come here, they spend their dollars. We have to pivot and become a family destination. Now, if you go back to 2014 and go to DS.com, you'll see that I gave the vision. And Trump was there. Talk to him about it. That vision is being developed for us, but we must take control of that vision. It's family entertainment. It's everything that's taking place. Look at our Navy Yard. Look at our Washington Harbor. Look at our beautiful communities. It's all there, but it has to be safe. And we can make sure we have a safe environment and continued tourism coming in,
We need to have the great book here so when parents come, they can have the family entertainment for their kids, go to our restaurants, go to our museums, but it all has to be safe. My child, my grandchildren, your grandchildren must be safe in the nation's capital.
I certainly agree with attracting larger businesses to DC. It's why you heard me speak about the business activity tax and my opposition to it. For this particular question, I want to talk about small businesses. They definitely deserve a moment on the stage. I've talked to a number of small business owner and operators, and one of them who owns a cafe in Adams Morgan told me that he almost had to close his cafe down because the city did not give him his alcohol permit on time. And as we all know, alcohol margins are quite large, and so this is a situation that either determined if he was going to keep his business open or have to close it. For me, it's very important that the next administration focuses on small businesses, streamlines permitting, has an actual small business concierge that caters to the needs of small business owners, so we don't see one of the biggest problems in the city today, which is a bunch of small businesses shuttering almost as soon as they open. That's a huge problem in DC, and the next administration must focus on it because that tax base is responsible for driving our social programs and funding the things that we care about. So we must take care of our small business owners.
The vision I see for the city is where everyone is lifted up. There is a reason why we are considered one of the worst places to do business in the country. Because it is. I live this every day of my life. I'm a small business owner, and DC makes it hard. When I don't know if I'm going to get a permit, whether or not I'm going to get a license, how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take, it is hard for business to try to thrive. What is the best way that we can create generational wealth? It is by investing in people, investing in the economic infrastructure and the physical infrastructure of our city to be able to allow every entrepreneur, every small business owner, every federal worker that wants to start their own business or nonprofit or do something that they've never tried before. But DC's current laws and rules hold them back. I'm creating jobs in this city. That is how we break down socioeconomic boundaries.
All right, family, next question. I'm gonna dig in my bag of tricks here. Let's see what we got. All right, so now we're going to deal with housing and planning. We'll start with candidate McDuffie. The Office of Planning has been criticized for prioritizing market rate development over deeply affordable housing, particularly for households below 50% MFI. Do you support current upzoning proposals along major corridors like Connecticut and Wisconsin avenues? Why or why not? And what specific policies would you implement to ensure deeply affordable housing is included? 1 minute.
It's a great question. Everybody who is in the District of Columbia should be able to afford to stay here, and anybody who wants to call Washington, D.C. home should be able to afford to move here and get quality, safe housing. I do support upzoning in metros, and about a quarter of a mile from metro. I think we need to look at policies, both zoning and otherwise, that reduce the regulations and the red tape that allow us to build the housing that we need to support a world-class growing city. If we want to grow in Washington, D.C., we've got to address the affordability crisis in housing today. And I'm not just going to wait till I become mayor. I focus my career on doing just that. I put in place policies that allow us to use district-owned land to build affordable housing and require that there be affordable housing when we dispose of our own land for the purpose of housing. One of the laws that I put in place says that whenever we have a surplus in DC, 50% of that surplus has to go to the Housing Production Trust Fund in order to be able to preserve and protect the housing we have and to build new housing across the District of Columbia. This isn't just about what I'm saying I'm going to do as mayor. I'm telling you what I've done in my career, what I will continue to do as the next mayor. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in creating legislation where you can feel the legislation and you can touch the legislation. $100 million goes into the Housing Production Trust Fund on an annual basis, but you can't touch the housing. So what I plan to do is I'm going to build 1,000 units
And they're going to be 600 square feet, and they're going to be for seniors. They're going to be for graduating college students in the District of Columbia. It's going to be for minimum wage workers. And as a matter of fact, I'm the one that got the minimum wage of $15. Now it's $17.95. It'll be $18.40 next year. And I'm going to allow these folks to get a deed to start their lives off by having these units. And also, I'm going to make sure those dollars circulate in the District of Columbia, because the individuals and the entities that are going to build those 1,000 units are going to be DC certified business enterprises. Everyone knows in there, I'm the one that took the CBE program from $0 being spent on our businesses to now $1 billion on an annual basis. And the mayor just announced that she will spend $1.5 billion in 2026.
Appreciate you.
So hopefully from my answers today, you've been able to get a feel for my approach. It's both creative but also balanced. And so yes, to upzoning, we need upzoning. At the same time, we need to fix the basics. I got in this race because I've noticed that DC government is broken. And one of the ways it's broken is that our current affordable housing system is fractured. It takes years for someone to enter an affordable housing unit. So as much as we want to build tons of new homes, we have to fix the broken system at the very same time. One of the proposals I have is that we should think about having providers be able to cut the red tape and verify eligibility so that it doesn't take as long to get people who deserve homes in the homes that we have already built today. So I want to look at this problem in multiple ways. It's not just about upzoning, but it's also about fixing the deeply broken system we have when it comes to affordable housing, thanks to the Office of Planning and others who are doing the jobs as best as they can. So, thank you.
This comprehensive plan makes the mistake and locks us in for almost a generation that has divided us along socioeconomic lines, along racial lines, and along geographic lines. The problem is not building in one particular area or another. It is ensuring that housing is being built throughout the city in a way that is affordable for everybody to live in. Right now, it costs double to build an affordable house than it does a market rate house. And the definition of AMI or FMI, it's BS. It doesn't actually take into account what it costs to live in the city. We're in the process of developing a new formula to make sure that when the housing gets built, it actually accommodates people throughout their entire life to be able to stay and live in the city.
Thank you. We need to build more. We need to build better. And what was released was the status quo from the Office of Planning and the current format. And it was not acceptable, and it will not get us to the number of housing units we need to build. We've spent about $1.4 billion in creating affordable housing, and we are now 10 years in the hole on deeply affordable housing. And so government has to step up and build the deeply affordable housing that we need in this moment, because it is not going to happen because we as a government have the ability to center the housing as a public good and not profit. We also have to make sure we stop these $1 land deals and giveaways. That is the pay-to-play politics that has led us to the housing crisis that we are in today. And when we are giving away government land, we need to make sure it's affordable. We are creating real affordable housing. And when we are giving away housing reduction trust fund dollars, we need to make sure that people are actually adhering to the requirements of building real affordable housing. We need family-sized units, 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, and that's how we're going to get the housing in Pleasant City. Thank you.
All right, we're getting down to the wire. A couple of more questions to get into before we get into the 32nd round. Candidate Orange, we'll start with you. Everybody gets 1 minute each. The question is, under what circumstance, if any, would you revisit the idea of free metro? Free metro.
Well, I would not be interested in free metro because we bring in all these people
from Maryland, Virginia, and elsewhere. So why would we provide free metro? It's the same with paid family leave. I'm for DC residents getting paid family leave, but what I'm not for is DC paying for Maryland and Virginia people to get paid family leave. But, you know, when my wife is in the front row and teaches out in Maryland, if I get sick, she cannot get paid family leave to come home and take care of me. But the same person working next to her, if their spouse is in DC working on getting our dollars and gets sick, then they get paid family leave. There's something wrong. Folks, there's something wrong. Wake up. Do your own analysis. The media is not telling the story. It's fake news. They're giving you a fake narrative. You know, Marvin Gaye says, save the children. Who really cares? I care. And if you care, you would do the analysis. Do the analysis on records. Do the analysis on records. Do the analysis on records.
I've mentioned that I really believe in social programs, and transportation is something that fundamentally changes people's lives. You're going to be able to access new opportunities, experience DC better when you have access to that transportation. So for me, it's on the table. However, I have committed very clearly no new programs until we fix the basics. Our DC government budget is bloated. We aren't managing our existing funds accurately and positively, and until we take care of that, our new leadership should not be proposing any new programs that may just contribute to the existing fiscal crisis. So it's something that I want to take a look at in the future if it makes sense for our city, but at this exact moment, it makes no sense, especially with how DC is managing our hard-worked taxpayer dollars.
This is something we are going to do day one. We have a proposal for fare-free DC. And why are we doing it? Because we already paid to walk down the street for our roads and our sidewalks. This is an economic development tool, and it will connect our city in new ways. It will allow people to go to doctor's appointments, get groceries, be accessible throughout the entire city. We are literally going to bring down the physical barriers that have divided us. And how do we pay for it? Well, we just gave away over $1 billion to a billionaire. I have done development, and I've done the math. That goes down as America's largest developer giveaway in history. That is not the type of economic development that I believe in that puts money in DC residents' pockets immediately. So why are we going to do this? Because it will create new economic opportunities for every resident in our city.
Thank you. A reliable transit system is key for a city like DC. But we know that we need to have a dedicated revenue source for WMATA. That's where it starts with me. We have to have a dedicated revenue source for WMATA because WMATA every year has to decide what they're going to cut, how they're going to cut things, because we don't have that. It also is a regional relationship. Again, that's why as mayor, you're going to have to work with, we have an opportunity to work with Governor Spanberg and Governor Westmore to talk about who's contributing what to our regional system and how we work together to have a WMATA system that is fully funded. We're going to make sure our transit is reliable. We're going to make sure our transit comes to every part of the city. I have fought with you all in Ward 3 with the Better Bus Network to improve bus services in our community and make sure we're there. We're going to continue to double down on those efforts. We're going to continue to make sure our students, like the first day of school, when Deal students didn't get to school on time because the bus didn't arrive. We're going to have real coordination around transportation and using our School Connect program and our law to get our students to school safely. Thank you.
Right now we have a $1.1 billion spending pressure, and so we have to make sure that we're focusing on the priorities that we need. We know that we have to have a reliable WMATA system in order to grow our economy in the District of Columbia. Until we have dedicated revenue stream for the operations in WMATA, we're going to continue to struggle. We need to make sure that we are figuring out how to provide a dedicated revenue stream to fund operations. And as the chair of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, I help lead the effort to figure out how to have a dedicated revenue stream for the capital funds necessary for Umami. We can make sure that we do that, but we've got to have greater regional collaboration both for transportation and for economic development. We need to make sure that we're thinking about juvenile justice. We talked about young folks earlier, that we have more regional collaboration when it comes to how we're providing safety for our young folks in the District of Columbia and how we're providing opportunities for cross-border collaboration. We need to make sure that we are strengthening programs like Kids Ride Free so that we're getting people who have the greatest need the opportunity to use our transit system. It's not just with Malta, it's access to bicycle infrastructure as well across the District of Columbia too.
All right, we're going to start on our 30-second rounds. All right, so Ms. Sampath, we'll start with you. 30 seconds each candidate. Will you commit to increasing funding and staffing for DC statehood efforts? One more time. Will you commit to increasing funding and staffing toward DC statehood efforts?
Yes, I strongly believe that we need to focus on DC statehood. I want to add that we need to make sure we're using the mayor's office to galvanize allied governors and also show the Democratic Party that this is a strategic investment in the future of the Democratic Party by advocating for DC to be the 51st state. So in addition to making sure we have the infrastructure in the mayor's office to make that possible, one thing that I want us to focus on as DC Democrats is make sure that we are advocating for the rest of the Democrats in the nation to advocate for statehood.
We will have DC statehood during my tenure as mayor. The way that we accomplish it is by creating a government that governs its citizens so well and lifts all its citizens up that obtaining statehood is undeniable. So how we allocate resources or dollars, any given number, it is about utilizing the resources that we have, all of us, all of the executives' resources, every one of our DC residents to get it.
Yeah, thanks.
And I've been doing it. I've been walking the halls of Congress. I'll probably be walking the halls of Congress later on this week to fight to build those relationships we need to remain filibuster-proof right now. I have been talking to Democrats who have told me this is the first time I'm ever hearing from elected leadership in DC. That can no longer happen. Until we have our statehood, and as long as we're fighting for autonomy, we have to be building those relationships. Welcome to DC. Here's how we can help you, and here's how we need you to help us, so that we can make sure on day one, when we have a Democratic majority, DC statehood is number one on the list of presidents.
It's an easy yes. We're going to make sure we increase resources for advocacy for statehood in the District of Columbia, because until we are the 51st state, we're going to continue to be political footballs for anybody in the Republican Congress who wishes to do harm in Washington, D.C. We're going to make sure that we increase funding for statehood, but we're going to continue to build those relationships, both with our delegations of Democrats in Virginia, as well as our delegations of Democrats in Maryland. We're already doing that. I'm already doing that. And it's vitally important that we increase that advocacy to Democrats across the United States so they understand the plight that we have in Washington, D.C.
First and foremost, we must have institutional knowledge on this subject matter. Twice we had the opportunity to become states, and Democrats were in charge, and we dropped the ball. This last time, because of Senator Cinnamon in Arizona and Menton in West Virginia, the vote we were not able to get. And I give credit to Eleanor Holmes Norton because she brought it to the 1 yard line. And those two let us down. Vice President Harris was ready to to break the tie, sign the deal, and Biden was ready to bring it home. So it's on us, but you must understand the institutional knowledge on this subject matter.
Right. Let's bring it back to Ward 3. Do you commit to bringing, this is a good one. Do you commit to bringing a senior wellness center to Ward 3 in your first 2 years of your
I don't need 30 seconds to do that, to answer this. Yes, absolutely. It is important that we ensure that our older residents have the facilities and the services they need throughout the entire city. But that is a hard yes.
It's so important for our senior community here in Ward 3, and as Ward 4 council member, I have been advocating both for Ward 4 and Ward 3 seniors. What I commit to is making sure that the Chevy Chase Civic Core is actually a space for our seniors, that it has been a place for our seniors to gather, a space for our seniors to do the many projects and the many meetings and the many programs that they have there, and a space for our young people to be able to come, and a space where we actually have green grass and opportunity. And it's not just a land giveaway, but it is a space for our seniors in our community and active spaces.
Washington, D.C. should be a life cycle city. What do I mean? From birth through retirement, you should see yourself reflected in the programs and the way that we deliver core services in the District of Columbia. So when it comes to senior services, we're going to make sure that we're enhancing those programs across the District of Columbia. I won't commit to building anything new until we understand what resources we have available in the budget. We're going to make sure we prioritize the areas with the highest need first. That's what equity looks like. I think that Ward 3 should have a senior center, absolutely. And I think that every ward across the District of Columbia should have the same thing as well. We're going to prioritize those areas with the highest need first.
Well, just let me say, since I understand the budget, yes. And not only that, I'm going to fight on Capitol Hill for making sure that we maintain Social Security. I'm going to make sure that that $6,000 deduction that all our seniors are supposed to get, that we fight for that. I'm not running to fight for all of D.C. I'm running to continue fighting for Washington, D.C. Check the records. 13 years on the council, 5 years on the council, 13 years on the council. Go to AI, go to ChatGPT, and it will give you the analysis on 3 of us. And I'm the most accomplished candidate in this race.
Answer is yes, and maybe my team will roll their eyes at this part of the answer, but there's a book recommendation I want to make just as an example of my governing philosophy. It's a wonderful book called Palaces for the People. It talks about how social infrastructure is what really keeps communities together, keeps them thriving, and that's why I believe so strongly that a senior center, investing in a space for our seniors to thrive, to connect with each other is so important for not just Ward 3, but for all of our wards. So I'm really looking forward to that.
All right, we'll start with candidate George for the next 30-second question. All right, this is a Ward 3 specific question. Once again, candidate George, starting with you, 30 seconds. Do you support building housing at the Chevy Chase Civic Core site, and would you prioritize deeper affordability over market rate units?
I want to say, because I've been deep in this issue, not under the current DIMPED. This Deputy Mayor of Office of Economic Development has not been a good broker with our community. We have had several meetings, and we have said clear what that site was supposed to be for. And when they came back, the current project and the current what was given to us does not meet the needs of any of our community members have asked for. We asked for real affordable housing, and what we got was market rate housing. So not under this current leadership and not under this current DIMPED, who has not been transparent and accountable and clear with our community from the start. Thank you.
Yes, I support building housing at the Chevy Chase Civic Center. I support using District of Columbia government-owned land to build housing across the District of Columbia. But we need to build housing in every neighborhood across the District of Columbia, particularly in the areas who are not there. We've got mostly single families owned across the District of Columbia, and we need to look at places where we can increase multifamily building as well as townhomes across the District of Columbia. And we know we're up against a legacy of racist, discriminatory housing policy that for years has concentrated wealth in certain communities and concentrated poverty in other communities. And we need to dismantle that.
but I changed the comprehensive plan to create Union Market. I was the co-chair of the new metro station that created Noma. I know how to do these things. I was the one that changed, it took a 25-acre car impoundment lot, and now y'all go to Home Depot. I was the one that dealt with that swampland over there in Fort Lincoln. Now you go to Costco's. Yes, I can do it. Check the record. The media is not letting us compete. Everyone on this stage should be held accountable for their records. And you need to demand competition. But competition benefits you. Not the media, but you. It's
Time. 30 seconds. Thank you.
Hopefully you've caught on that I believe government is good. I think DC Democrats in general, we believe government's very powerful and it can be used for social good, but it needs to be able to execute. And that's what I think is missing in DC government today, execution. We're failing on the basics. We're not able to deliver affordable housing units. We're not able to deliver on better zoning reforms because DC government's infrastructure internally, its leadership is not capable of the operating powers that are necessary, the administrative capacities that are needed to make that possible. Those are the reforms that are needed.
I gave a keynote speech last week, and one of the slides that I had was how the entitlement and the development process has divided us as a city, as a community. And I just got to say, that particular development, it hurts to see how it has divided the community. What do I support? I support housing on the site. But as I mentioned before, how we define affordable needs to change because that's not working for anybody.
All right. Final 30-second question. Candidate McDuffie, starting off with you, 30 seconds. What is the biggest mistake the current administration has made? Once again, what is the biggest mistake the current administration has made?
Just one?
Yes, sir.
I would say the biggest one is not standing up to Trump and signing an executive order that allows cooperation with ICE. Everybody in the District of Columbia deserves to feel safe, but right now, we've got an entire community of folks who are living in the shadows and afraid to come out of their homes. I've spent my entire career fighting for fairness and justice, and on day one, I'm going to get rid of that executive order that allows the Metropolitan Police Department to cooperate with ICE so that our Hispanic, Latino neighbors can feel safe in Washington, D.C. once and for all.
Well, I'm not here tonight to trash Mayor Bowser. Mayor Bowser has done a great job. She's leaving office with home rule intact, with DC autonomy intact. She did what she had to do under the circumstances. You may have done it differently, I may have done it differently, but she was in that hot seat. And so I'm not going to trash her, but I will say one thing, I would have fought for that $1.1 billion that they took. Now, I've been fighting on that. Day in and day out, I want the DC residents' money. Don't take away our money. You approved the budget. So why are you taking our money? I would have fought him on that. But kudos to Mayor Bowser.
I think there's been a huge focus for the current administration on development, but there's a huge lack of focus when it comes to service delivery and the basics. I keep talking about fix the basics, fix the basics. We have potholes. It takes 3 years to fix one sidewalk. There aren't grocery stores in Ward 7 and 8. And so that's why I'm in this race. I think we need to refocus and fix the issues that affect every single resident in Washington, D.C. before we embark on any new programs or any new ideas that we aren't sure are tried and tested. So basics affect everyone.
The biggest mistake was not creating a city that lifts everybody up, that incentivizes success. When Trump first deployed the National Guard and started this collaboration with MPD, I put out a statement that the failure was not actually creating a truly safe city, not addressing systemic crime, not addressing the homelessness issue in our city. That is the biggest mistake of not believing in our residents and supporting them.
I would say the biggest mistake is not leading being people first. This idea that if we invested at the top, it was going to trickle down. It's never going to trickle. But if we invest in our small businesses, if we invest in our youth, if we invest in our communities, if we invest in our education and our families, if we invest in us and our people and jobs and our pipelines, watch the way this city grows. So she has decided to invest at the top and trickle down. I have decided to invest in us and watch the way we grow this city and trickle up. Thank you.
Family, we're coming down to the wire. We got one last 30-second question for Candidate Orange, starting first. Candidate Orange, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Please talk to us about the first action you would take within the first 100 days of your term. 30 seconds. I'm just the messenger here. 30 seconds. No, the first question was the collaboration with the different agencies.
No, I think
Say Civic. Go ahead, Mark. First 100 days, your first action, sir. 30 seconds.
Once again, I will lead. I will bring in the Attorney General. I will bring in the delegate on the Hill. Make sure that we are a united force. All three. You gotta love all three of us and make sure that we are here to protect the District of Columbia and we're ready to stand tall to anyone, White House, Congress, or anyone. There has to be no air between us and we will lead forward. Full speed ahead, no fear, no fear, no fear. Public safety and justice, public safety and justice.
Appreciate it. All right.
This is a memory test. We're checking for consistency messaging. Office of United Communications, it's a life or death situation. I joined this race because I want to fix the basics. Our basics are broken in Washington, D.C. government. It affects every single person in this room. And in my first 100 days, I'm going to be entirely focused on data-driven actions that make sure our potholes are filled, that our sidewalks are fixed, that our schools have HVAC systems, because those are the things that make sure that we can all thrive in Washington, D.C. So fix the basics. That is what's going to affect each of your lives materially.
Let's see if I get this one right. I'm going to stay with what I probably should have at the beginning of the last one. I'm going to declare a public health emergency for education. We are going to wipe out. We are going to ensure that all of our kids can read by 3rd grade. We're going to use every possible resource to hire social workers, mental health professionals. Again, mental health is health. We are going to ensure that our teachers receive all the resources they need to be successful educators.
I believe, first and foremost, it's not the first 30 days, because 30 days you gotta hit the ground running. How you run your campaign is how you're gonna run your executive. And so I'm gonna run as I have, organized, ready, and speaking to residents all in wards. I'm also going to make sure that we are going to take a forensic analysis of every agency for spending and efficacy. We are going to end cooperation with MPD and ICE. And we are going to look at every agency in the district government to see how we can improve the lives of people on day one, but also how we're going to do that in the first 100 days and then the first 365 days. Thank you.
We're going to make sure that we, on day one, end the executive order that allows cooperation between MPD and ICE. We're also going to issue an executive order that lays out that the government is going to be accountable and transparent to its taxpayers. For too long, this city has made it difficult for people to understand how your public dollars are being spent. You should not need a Freedom of Information Act request in order to understand how the people's resources are being spent. The mayor sets the into economic growth for guardrails, but we're going to make sure that people understand it's about transparency. Government should be accountable.
All right, before we get to closing comments, I just want to thank y'all for allowing me the opportunity to ask all these questions. Thank y'all. Y'all been a great audience. All right, so we started at my immediate right, so we're going to go all the way down to Kennedy Louis George, and we'll work our way right back down to Kennedy Goodweather. For closing comments, 1 minute each, please.
Thank you, Ward 3, for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. As I have said, this election, you're going to hear from various candidates. Experience is going to come up. It's clear that many of us have experience. So in addition to experience, what you need to be looking for is who is ready to lead in this moment of crisis? Who do you trust behind closed doors to stand up to this administration and fight for DC residents? Who do you trust to be able to solve the difficult problems that we've been able to solve, like earned income tax credit, or having librarians in all of our schools, or fighting to make sure our facilities work better? Who do you trust to improve government services, the people who've been improving government services throughout this time? Who do you trust to really deal with this affordability crisis that we are in, where childcare is expensive and utilities are expensive and housing is out of touch for so many residents? That is what this race is about. Who has been consistent in standing up for the residents of this city? Who's going to be transparent? Who voted for closed meetings and who voted against it? Who voted to make sure to never overturn the will of voters and who voted to overturn the will of voters? It's about integrity and trust and consistency. And I ask that you rank Janeese Louis George first for that very reason. Thank you.
This is not a normal moment in Washington, D.C. So we cannot rely on 1 minute responses at a forum to really choose who our next leader is going to be. This moment requires somebody who has spent their career fighting for justice, fairness, and equity in Washington, D.C. And I submit to you that I've done just that. This moment requires leadership that's going to stand up and fight back against President Trump and anybody who threatens our ability to run our own city. We're going to make sure that we fight to push back against President Trump, but we're also going to make sure that we deliver core services in the District of Columbia that keep people safe, that invest in education, that create businesses, that create jobs in the District of Columbia residents. We're going to make sure that we make this city a city that is more racially equitable, more socially just, and more economically inclusive. You don't do that with rhetoric. You do that with a track record of delivering real results for Washington, D.C.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, because tonight is real competition. And he's right. It's not about rhetoric, it's about a record. Check out the record. Compare the records. If you were going to get surgery today, you want someone that just started yesterday, or you want someone that has a record? You know, I'm not running for a legacy. I have a legacy. I'm already in the Washington, D.C. Hall of Fame. My plaque is already on the ground at Carnegie Hall. DCTV, I'm already in DCTV Hall of Fame. I'm running because there's work to be done. Who is going to stand up to Trump? I'm running because I'm looking Trump dead in the eye, and I love all y'all in back of me. That's who I'm representing. I'm representing the 700,000 residents of the nation's capital, and I will fight to the end. And also, it's personal, because I have 2 granddaughters that I love dearly. In the words of the native son of Washington, D.C., Marvin Gaye, save the children. Who really cares? I care. I'm fired up and I'm ready to go. Let's go, y'all. Let's take it on and get the job done for us. Nation's capital, Washington, D.C. All right. Fight to see for D.C.
All right. Well, this is my first forum since getting on the ballot, so I do want to share something personal with you all, and it's that I found out I'm the first South Asian person in the history of DC mayoral races to get on the ballot. So I'm really excited to achieve that milestone. I know I also shared with you that I came to the U.S. when I was 7 years old, and I came here with my parents in pursuit of the American dream, and that's what I fundamentally believe the mayor's office can do for Washington, D.C. residents. It's help every single person here achieve the American dream, but that starts with the basics. It starts with being good stewards of our taxpayer dollars and making sure our existing programs are functioning well, that our potholes are filled, our sidewalks aren't broken, that we take care of our residents in Ward 7 and 8, and that they don't live with no grocery stores. The basics are so important for our survival. I'm an administrator, I'm an operator, I've been in executive roles for much of my career, and while I'm not a career politician, I want to make DC government work. Thank you for having me.
You've heard from multiple candidates tonight, and two of them that have sat on council during a time when housing production has collapsed, when our student scores have declined significantly, when utility prices have skyrocketed. It is time for change. I am running not to manage the status quo, but to change it. And I'm running because I have a lifetime of experience that I intend to use to serve each of you. And I intend to use all of the resources, all of my skills to deliver a city that I can see, the greatest city in the world. I fundamentally believe that. I absolutely believe that. And with ranked choice voting, I would love to be your first choice. But if not, I'd be honored to be your second choice. But no matter what, however you bring down the ballot, I will stand up for you always and deliver.
Let's give our parents another hand, y'all. Let's give our